Blessings, beloveds. Welcome back to my channel, Anastasia, Cosmic Astrologer, with you again today. Right, so today I'm following up on the previous video, which was transiting Jupiter, moving into the sign of Sagittarius on the 9th of November. So that's just a few days away now. So the previous video covered Jupiter, transiting Jupiter through houses 1 to 6. So please watch the previous video if in your own chart you have transiting Jupiter in any of the houses 1 through to 6. So today's video is looking at Jupiter through houses 7 to 12. And, you know, these houses are all beautiful. Every single house is beautiful, really. There's so many layers and dimensions to each house, really. There's just so much richness. Anyway, before I go straight into Jupiter in the 7th, just a couple of comments I'd like to make which could be useful for you. The first point is that Jupiter takes 12 years to travel through every single sign of the zodiac. It's not exactly 12, actually, technically. It's a little bit more than 12. But we just kind of round it off to 12 years anyway. So essentially what that means is that Jupiter spends, you know, around about 1 year in each zodiacal sign, therefore spending 1 year in each house of your birth chart, therefore in a very specific area of your life for 12 months. Now, depending on what house system you are using, and depending on whether you were born in the northern or southern hemisphere, you may have certain houses in your birth chart that are smaller and other houses that are larger. So naturally, if you've got a larger house, then Jupiter is going to spend more time in that house because that house, for example, is occupying more than 30 degrees. 30 degrees is the standard for each house or each zodiacal sign. But depending on what house system you use, that may change, as I just said a moment ago. I have, for example, my 4th and 10th houses are larger than 30 degrees. So they're the largest houses in my birth chart. So when I get transits through my 4th and my 10th, those transits last longer. And in fact, I have had transiting Jupiter in my 10th house, and I'll touch on what that has been for me when I get to the 10th house, just to add some, you know, personal real life experience of my own life in terms of what it's meant for me. That's one thing I wanted to mention. So just be aware of that, because you may just get a longer Jupiter transit or you may get a shorter one. It just depends what house system you are using. The other point I wanted to make, which is I think very, very powerful to remember and to understand as well. And this way of thinking really pertains to esoteric astrology. Now, in esoteric astrology, there are 7 rays that we work with. And I have done videos on this. So if you look through, you'll find a video on esoteric astrology discussing the personality and soul ray, which are the 2 rays that I pretty much look at for any person's chart I'm working with. I find that the personality ray and soul ray are incredibly useful and add so much more to the actual birth chart of the individual. Now, when it comes to these 7 rays, ray number 2 is actually ruled by Jupiter. It's actually ruled by Jupiter and the Sun, so it's got 2 planetary rulers. And ray number 2, the key word, or words rather, for Sun, Jupiter, ray number 2 are love, wisdom. So I just think it's really great to remember that and to incorporate that as you're kind of seeing, you know, Jupiter transit around your chart, because esoterically, it holds that energy of love, wisdom, which is very, very beautiful. And just to read you one sentence, Jupiter is is pure second ray and adds cohesiveness and heart qualities to whatever planet it touches. So that includes the house that it's touching as well. It works to blend and fuse love and wisdom, heart and mind, into its interactions with other planets and points in the horoscope. So that's a little summary of what Jupiter means in terms of esoteric astrology and connecting to the ray number 2. So I just wanted to throw that in and just give you guys a little bit extra in terms of understanding Jupiter from the esoteric level. Now, the 7 rays all connect to all the different planets, including the Earth and Vulcan, which are not used in mainstream Western tropical zodiac astrology, which is what I generally work with anyway. But as I've said previously, I also work with esoteric astrology. I incorporate some medieval astrology as well. So I use a number of different kind of lenses when I'm looking and examining a person's birth chart. So, look, Jupiter alone is such a wonderful energy. As I've said, it's the greater benefic. And the greater benefic cannot bring harm. There are some precautions that need to be taken when we're working with the Jupiter energy, and I've mentioned what they are for the houses 1 through to 6 in the previous video, and I'll mention where it's appropriate in houses 7 to 12 now. So let's just get straight into it. Jupiter in the 7th house. Clearly this is the area of relationships and marriage. First, I want to just unpack a little bit about the relationships, because when we are talking about relationships in terms of the 7th house, it doesn't pertain just to intimate love relationships. That house actually pertains to a relationship you might have with your astrologer, with your therapist, with your lawyer, with your doctor, any one-on-one important relationship is described by the 7th house. So relationships overall, whether they are personal or whether they are professional, really gain tremendously with Jupiter transiting through the 7th house. All relationships experience some level of growth and expansion and opportunity and benefit and growth, and usually for both people as well, actually. When it comes to any having some type of legal matter, and you've got transiting Jupiter in the 7th, it's a really good time to hook up with a lawyer, because you're bound to get a lawyer who's quite Jupiterian, who's going to probably help you win the case, whatever it may be. I mean, that's, look, that's a little bit broad, I know, but generally speaking, if you've got some matter like that existing in your life, it's quite a blessing to have Jupiter transiting your 7th house. There can be good fortune that can come out of that, because Jupiter is, as I said, it doesn't bring harm. It essentially brings good fortune. So the other thing is, if you are in a relationship at the moment, then there's going to be tremendous growth and benefit and expansion through your current relationship. There's going to be a lot of growth in the actual relationship for the both of you. There might be adventure, there might be expansion of the way you both view the relationship. There might be more freedom that comes in now, a lot more enjoyment, that's for sure. And both of you generally will feel a lot more optimistic and a lot happier in the connection, in the relationship. So relationships benefit tremendously when Jupiter is transiting the 7th house, all relationships. When it comes to marriage, this alone doesn't necessarily signify getting married. I would expect there would be other things going on in your birth chart that would be supporting this transit. But if you were getting married, well, Jupiter's in the 7th. Well, you couldn't ask for a more beautiful energy other than maybe Venus. But Jupiter is, yeah, it's a different level altogether. Venus is the lesser benefic, as we call it, but it is a benefic, so it is a lovely energy to have there as well. Married, if you are married, you know, this is a period where the next 12 months your marriage is going to experience all the things that I've already said. So if you've been in a marriage for a while, and let's just say you've been going through a bit of a rough patch for whatever reason or reasons that may be, which is, you know, fairly typical in relationships and marriages, well, this will smooth things out. This will make things a lot more pleasant and a lot more enjoyable for the both of you in the marriage. And again, there can be tremendous growth that can come out of this experience for the both of you. In terms of your own self, there can be tremendous learning that can come through with Jupiter in the 7th house, learning about your own self. Now, you're learning about your own self through the other or through the others, because the other is acting as your mirror. So, and that's what the 7th house does. It's the energy or the area of the chart where classically, when there's planetary energies in that chart, whether natally or whether by transit, the most natural thing to do is to project those energies onto the other person, and namely a partner. So if you're not in a relationship and you do attract a relationship at this time, you might attract somebody who will be described by the Jupiter energy. And what's that? Well, that's basically somebody who's probably very generous, very optimistic, perhaps quite philosophical, quite wise, could be a teacher type person, somebody who really inspires you and motivates you in this connection and union that comes together at this time. Somebody who can be a guide, you know, somebody who's philosophical, beautiful energy. You know, I mean, it's just stepping into the world of relationships with a greater sense of confidence and optimism and excitement about expanding and experiencing so much more. That really expands your consciousness, but predominantly in the world of relating and relationships, because it is the 7th house. Now, Jupiter connects to foreign places and people, because Jupiter is the ruler of the 9th house, Sagittarius, which is, you know, foreign places and foreign people, other cultures. So it's typical to attract a person in your life that's from another culture or from another country. So it might end up being initially a long distance relationship. You know, things like that can really show up with Jupiter in the 7th house. Let me see, is there anything else? Basically, there's enormous benefit to be gained from connecting with somebody in a relationship now, whether it's a new relationship or whether it's an existing relationship. There's tremendous growth and potential that comes out of this union and this connection at this time. And that will be for 12 months. So it's a lovely transit, lovely energy to have for 12 months. Let me see. Yeah, so and just to close house 7, any relationship you have during this time that's an important one-on-one relationship will basically have an impact on your consciousness, really. It's an expansion of consciousness in the world of relating. Lovely transit. That's house 7. Okay, moving on to house 8. Traditionally, when Jupiter was seen to go through the 8th house, it was said that the person will receive some kind of inheritance. Now, that is a very old traditional view that comes, you know, from Hellenistic astrology and perhaps even prior to that. And it's not to say that it's not true, but I think I don't think that every time Jupiter goes through the 8th, it necessarily means that the person will 100% receive some inheritance. If there is a possibility for inheritance in that person's life, then yes, when Jupiter transits through the 8th, that could be the trigger that brings all that in. But, you know, that's going to come down to the person in terms of their family members and who may be giving the inheritance and so forth. So inheritance is one possibility, absolutely. The other great thing about this house with Jupiter is that this is a really fortunate time to step into business partnerships with people. So if you're in a position in your life where you are ready to go into some sort of joint business with somebody, this is a very rewarding, very fortunate time to do it. That both of you will really benefit and grow and expand tremendously through the union. So the uniting of both of you as individuals and the resources that the both of you have, when you bring them together, there's incredible expansion and growth and opportunities that can come out of that as a result of the union. So it can bring a lot of success in joint enterprises for you, in other words. If you are looking to get a loan from a bank, this is a really good time to do it. The time not to go for a loan is when Saturn is transiting your 8th house. If you've got Saturn transiting your 8th, you most likely will not be granted a loan. I've seen that many, 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 many times. Jupiter, though, on the other hand, transiting the 8th house is a great time, because what we're talking about is, in terms of the level that connects to resources, which is part of the 8th house inherent energy and characteristics, we're talking about resources that belong to everybody else but yourself. So it's an opportunity to tap into other people's resources that can be of tremendous benefit for you at this point in your life. Now, the bank is a classic example of that, because despite the fact that I think banks are pretty corrupt and that there's a lot of crap going on and so on and so forth, that's a whole other conversation and a whole other video. Just if we just stick to very basic sort of traditional perspective on, the bank is not my money. Well, it is really. I know in truth it is our money, but we do go to a bank to borrow money at times in our life. So I want to keep this simple. This is a great time to do it if you needed to do that. If you needed to, get some sort of loan for an investment property, or for whatever the case, it can be the smallest to a very large amount. Large amounts is highly likely. Having said that, though, if there is some other transit in your chart at the same time that negates this Jupiter energy in the 8th, then that will interfere with, in terms of loans, bank loans and things like that. So I'm just putting that there as a side note, because that's likely a possibility for many different people. But basically what you feel with Jupiter in the 8th is people are really wanting to help you at this time, really wanting to assist you when it comes to resources. There's a lot of help that's offered to you. Opportunities just land before you, as it were. So you need to be open and receptive to notice these things as well. So whatever's going on in your life, if this is something that connects with you, then this is a time to really reach out, because you will find that people will say yes to you. They won't say no. Remember, Jupiter is the planet of generosity. It's the planet of wisdom, philosophy, truth, higher learning, gurus, teachers, law. It's the planet of many, many things, but it's the planet of generosity as well. It's a great energy for Jupiter in the 8th, to get if you're interested in studying psychology, or just even the psychology of your own self and humanity overall, just as a personal interest, this is a really, really great time to delve deeper into the psychological and emotional depths of the human psyche, if you like. It's a great time to step into the occult and mystical type of studies and learning and literature, because you can gain tremendously at this point in time while Jupiter's in the 8th. Your level of absorption, the ability to learn from these subjects is so rich at this time. There's so much potential for expansion, so it's a great time for any of those sorts of studies. Obviously the sexual component comes into this as well. And what can I say really, other than, you know, if you're in a relationship, I guess, the sexual component of the relationship can experience some greater levels of expansion and excitement, and all sorts of things can happen on that level as well. Jupiter in the ninth. Now, this is really interesting because Jupiter, sorry, it's very hot here today. It's humid. It was 33 degrees yesterday. It was about 28 degrees all night, which was stunning. I woke up at 4 in the morning, 3:30 actually, and I just sat out on my balcony, and there was this incredible beauty of stillness. There was nothing moving, and I could just see the moon in the phase that it's in now, which is it's a fairly small sort of moon, and it was sort of like eclipsed by the clouds, and it looked like a spaceship. It was just such an interesting thing to see at 3:30 in the morning, where there's no traffic, no noise, just this incredible stillness. Anyway, just felt like sharing that. So Jupiter in the ninth. Now, Jupiter rules the ninth house because Jupiter is the natural ruler of Sagittarius. The ninth house is the Sagittarius house. So you can expect that when Jupiter enters your ninth house, all things pertaining to that house take on a tremendous expansive level of learning. So the desire to really want to expand your consciousness at this time is very great, and there's so much benefit that can come out of this, because your right brain, which is the ninth house, which is also connected to Uranus, but anyway, that's another side note. But the right brain, which is the ninth house, ruled by Jupiter, and when Jupiter is going through that house, then your right brain's expanding. Very simply put, you have the capacity at this time to absorb so much wisdom and expand that right brain, that consciousness and intuition as well. So it's a really, really beautiful time for study, any higher learning, any type of higher learning. That includes astrology, that includes university type degrees, you know, whatever, study, etc. Any higher learning is you will gain tremendously while Jupiter is in this house, because you will also make connections with, if it's the studying path that you take, your experience will be so beautiful, so optimistic. There'll be so much confidence in everything that you're learning. You're likely to connect with some kind of mentor or teacher who's really Jupiterian and who really kind of puts you under their wing, as it were, and really takes you through this beautiful journey for the next 12 months of learning from that higher plane. It's also a time of travel and adventures. So, you know, the ninth house is traveling, and it's other cultures. So there's a strong possibility for travel to be happening in your life at that time. Even if it wasn't planned, you might be more inclined to travel while Jupiter's traveling in your ninth house. So the areas of study also connect to philosophy, metaphysics, religion, all abstract subjects, symbolic languages such as astrology, the law. These are all the matters that your mind is going to be really sort of gravitating towards and wanting to really kind of, there's a real thirst for knowledge at this time, and it's so rewarding and so uplifting that you just feel so compelled to take on some journey in this higher learning, because it adds so much to your consciousness expanding, essentially. Now, the ninth house is also connected to publishing, as in publishing books. It's also connected to media on that large sort of level. So if you're a writer, this would be the perfect time to have your book published. You know, you'd be supported by the love and blessings of Jupiter. So things should work out really, really well for you. The exposure to a broader worldview at this time with Jupiter in the ninth, it actually changes your own overall outlook and view on the world, because your consciousness is expanding. It's a powerful time to gain a lot of wisdom. The thing that I would like to say, though, is that it's important to be really open and receptive and not think that you know it all and you have all the answers, because there are people on the planet who take that position. I'm sure you've come across them. I certainly have. So the caution with that is that if you think you know everything, then there's nothing for you to learn. This energy just gets wasted, and it's such a shame to waste such a powerful, beautiful energy where there can be so much incredible, tremendous learning and growth and expansion of consciousness. Yeah, I mentioned travel. Yep. Okay, house 10. All right, so clearly this connects to your professional life, your career, your social status, and how you were seen out there, in the world, I guess. So this is a really great time to progress and improve in your career path. If you are working for somebody, then the chances are you will get a promotion. That'll include, your salary obviously being increased. You will exude this incredible confidence in how you hold yourself in your professionalism and what it is you are doing. And that can be very, like, a really beautiful radiating quality and energy. On the other hand, it can be very arrogant as well. So that's where the caution comes in. If you're over arrogant, it's going to cause problems with your supervisors, superiors, or whatever you want to call them. So just try not to be too overconfident, and just appreciate what it is that's being presented to you, that's enabling you to grow and expand in wherever it is you stand in relation to career and profession. This energy brings tremendous recognition to the efforts that you've pretty much been accumulating over, a certain amount of time. So a lot of effort and things you've been working towards and doing. Well, this is now the time of recognition for all of that. This energy helps you just get more in touch now with what you can actually really create that pertains to your life direction, life path, and life calling. Travel can be connected to this as well. So you might be in some kind of professional role where travel is a possibility, and you may not have done it before, but when Jupiter comes into your 10th, if travel is connected to your work, then you are likely to be the one that's going to be chosen to travel for work. Obviously, because Jupiter connects to foreign people and foreign cultures, and travel's involved as well, you're likely to make connections with, other cultures and people through traveling. You may also have dealings with a lot of people that come from other cultures without having to travel in your actual work situation or professional field. You are likely to make connections with people that are Jupiterian, again, somebody who's quite wise, who's philosophical, who's generous, who can teach you a lot of things as well. So all things to do with education and learning can be a very big part of this as well in your work situation. It's a period of growth and expansion towards your life direction. And that can include actually leaving a current work role and stepping into perhaps what feels more authentic, or what you feel you're really ready to step into at this stage in your life. It's a really powerful transit, Jupiter in the 10th. There's so much benefit and gain that can come out of your professional life, basically. And just to share with you guys what happened to me, now I've still got transiting Jupiter in my 10th. It's towards the end of the 10th house. And because my 10th house, as I said earlier, is slightly larger than some other houses in my chart, when I have transits in the 10th and the 4th, because they're opposite each other, I have those transits a little bit longer. Now, transiting Jupiter has been in my 10th for quite some time. Let me think. Yeah, it's probably going to be about a year and a half in total, as opposed to 12 months for me. When Jupiter went into my 10th house, not long after, is when I started this YouTube channel. Which is perfect symbolism. There are other things going on in my chart as well, which describe all of this. But I'm just talking about Jupiter today, and Jupiter is very significant in this part of my journey and development, and what I was ready to step into and pretty much offer, to you guys that are watching. And I did actually resign from my daytime job, which was I was a mental health clinician. Another way of saying that would be a counselor, therapist. And I was working for that organization for 2.5 years. And I chose to resign for a number of different reasons. But now when I actually look back, the universe was really trying to push me out of there into actually what I'm doing right here, right now. So I've been incredibly blessed and rewarded. I do have a really good Jupiter in my chart natally, and I've said this in the previous video. If Jupiter's in rulership in your birth chart, or exaltation, your Jupiter transits are going to have one step above some other Jupiter transits, just how it is. Okay, so that's 10th. Now the 11th house is really very beautiful as well, because the 11th house is it's really an extension of the 10th house, but in a different sort of way. It's an extension in the sense where everything that you've been working with in the 11th house in terms of your life path, career, professional life, the 11th house adds a more expansive component that brings in basically your dreams and wishes and ideals that you have. So any dreams and wishes and ideals belong to the 11th house, and they are an extension of the 10th in a way. Okay, those houses both have to do with social consciousness, the 10th and the 11th. So when Jupiter goes into the 11th house, there's a tremendous receptivity and ability to tap into what your ideals, wishes, and dreams are for the larger cause. For the larger cause in your own life that then extends to humanity, overall. Because the 11th house is the Aquarius house. It's about humanitarian workings and connections. So when Jupiter's in the 11th house, several things happen. You can make new friendships at this time, and if you do, they're basically going to be awesome. There's going to be so much enjoyment and so many benefits from new people that come into your life at this time. These people are going to be kind of Jupiterian. They're going to mirror that energy. So there'll be people that you'll find will be really kind and supportive and really helpful to you at this time in your life, and possibly even really help you with actualizing these dreams and these wishes and these ideals that you have. Not that you can't do it yourself, we can. But when it comes to the 11th house and a planet moving in the 11th house, that part of the chart is our self connecting to the larger group. So it's not doing it our own way. It's actually about being receptive and open and connecting to the larger group, and how that fits into our model or our perspective of where we fit into the collective, into humanity. So it's connecting to groups and communities. So if you're a group therapist, or if you're some kind of practitioner in group work, healing work, spiritual work, shamanic work, art, all those things, there's tremendous benefit if you are acting in that role in groups at this point in your life. equally, if you're not and you want to actually step into one of those groups as a participant, this is a wonderful time to do it, because there's tremendous growth and expansion and opportunities that come to you through this connection you make with these groups. It's, remember, Jupiter is love, wisdom, love, wisdom. How beautiful is that? As I said, friends will be more supportive at this time. You will feel that whether it's new friends or whether it's existing friends, there's a greater sense of growth and benefit that can come from the friendship. And that's a reciprocal energy that's taking place between you and a group, right? Or you and a close friend, for instance. So the idea of this house is, and I have said this anyway, is that your ideals and wishes and dreams, they're not just supposed to benefit yourself. They need to benefit the community at large. So I guess, you know, if you are an Aquarian type person, or you've got lots of planets in the 11th house, that's how you naturally kind of connect and operate anyway. But on the other hand, this, if you're not a group type person and you're more of a loner, which there's many people that are like that, this can be a wonderful time to just really, you know, make some connections with some groups of tribes that you feel a common, you know, value system or connection with, and you can grow tremendously from the interaction you have with these groups of people. So you need to be really open and receptive to this energy, and let it take you, let it open you up into new levels of connecting with other people, because there's so much growth that can come out of that for you. Okay, 12th house. Now, this is a really interesting one. Of course it would be. It's the 12th house. So the 12th house, as we know, is the Pisces house. It's the last house in the birth chart. And Jupiter naturally rules this house as well. Okay, in traditional astrology, Jupiter is the first ruler of Pisces and Neptune is the secondary ruler. I look at both rulers as ruling the sign of Pisces. Now, the benefits that come with Jupiter in the 12th, they're not as obvious as all the other houses. And that's pretty understandable when you think about what the 12th house means, which is the collective unconscious. It's past lives. It's your sacred inner world and space. It's your dream life. It's hospitals. It's a number of different things, but it's your spirit. It's a spiritual dimension to your life that is not seen out there in the world, but rather experienced very deep inside you. So that's why when Jupiter travels the 12th, it may not appear as though a lot is happening, but there is a lot happening on much deeper, more subtle, and even unconscious levels. So I think the key with this is to, when you know you've got Jupiter transiting your 12th house, you make the most of this absolutely divine, God blessing, beautiful energy that enables you to tap into and to grow and expand in areas of truth and in areas of spiritual dimension, because that's what it's doing. It's tapping into the deepest part of the divine that dwells within you, the truth that resides within you. You can tap into all of that and have access to, you know, tremendous spiritual wisdom at this time. So it's a beautiful, beautiful transit. It's also really great on a psychological level. It can be really, really helpful to help you be more compassionate and accepting to aspects of yourself that you otherwise are not so loving towards, or not so compassionate about, or not so accepting of. We all have aspects of ourselves that we want to improve, or are transforming certain things about ourselves, or it might be some habits, things we don't really like about ourselves, anything like that. When Jupiter's in the 12th house, you have a much greater capacity for compassion towards yourself, but not only towards yourself, towards the world at large and towards all people. It's a very, very powerful energy. It actually activates and increases your empathy, your levels of empathy, and that's why you actually have so much more compassion. It's very typical to attract a spiritual guide at this time in your life. Now, that can be in the human form, so that can be a person you attract that acts as a real wise person in your life that guides you on a spiritual level. It could be a guru type figure. And if it's not in the physical form, then it's certainly connecting to the angelic realm and to other dimensions of the cosmos that enable you to activate and tap into higher dimensions, because this 3D reality is just one dimension. There are many, many more. So when Jupiter's traveling through your 12th house, you have enormous, abundant access to these other, spiritual planes, if you like. So any spiritual development and work that you do on your own inner dimensional life is so rich at this time. It's a beautiful, beautiful energy, very, very powerful to access those levels within you. And it doesn't matter how long you've been practicing spirituality and how much you think you know, take advantage of this beautiful, abundant energy in the 12th house, enabling you to tap into and open up and expand in ways that you never thought possible. Because the last time you had Jupiter transiting your 12th house was 12 years ago. Now, I'm pretty confident in saying that your life is different now to what it was 12 years ago. You yourself as an individual probably feel quite different to how you were 12 years ago, right? Accessing the dream world, dream life is very rich at this time as well. And certainly absorbing deeper levels of the unconscious within you that enables you to tap into greater truths, as I said. And naturally, because the 12th house connects to retreating and withdrawing from the external world, it might be more of a quiet period, in your life over the next 12 months. But quiet doesn't mean that nothing's happening, or that you're not achieving, or that you're not experiencing things. In fact, the more subtle, quiet aspects of life hold tremendous power. But our mind keeps us so busy and so distracted from these planes and these spaces that we rarely go to them. So when we have transits like this, especially with Jupiter, it's a lot easier to go into that space because we feel a natural inclination to do so. And there's so much benefit that can come from it. Okay, so that's Jupiter through all the houses. As I said, watch the previous video if you didn't. It's worth watching because you may know somebody who's got transiting Jupiter through houses 1 to 6. And I think I can wrap it up here for today. I'll be back with another video soon. Let me just think, there was something else I wanted to mention. What was it? Yeah, I can't quite remember. Okay, well, look, I'll leave it there for today. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Thank you for your beautiful comments and for your appreciation and all your questions. That they are always welcome, and I always do my best to answer them. Please feel free to contact me for a personal reading, whether that's your own natal chart reading, whether you need your time rectified, whether you want a relocation reading, relationship reading, whether you want a reading for your child, a business partnership reading, career soul path reading. There's so many different types of readings I do and offer. And you know, we've got sort of the holidays, Christmas time coming up. It can be a beautiful gift that you could perhaps gift somebody that you are fond of in your life. So just think about that, and please contact me for any of that, or if you have any other questions, I'll leave my contact details below, and you can hook up with me on Facebook and Twitter as well. Okay, thank you for your love and support, and much love and blessings right back at you. See you soon. Bye.